So here's my film digitizer 2.0. I've decided to use my old Bell & Howell projector, which is my good projector, and I've basically turned it into the digitizer, and it's actually working really well. So we have the Bell & Howell, which has been slowed down to like 1/50th the speed with this motor, and I also have this little switch that is getting timing off of the projector, the shutter wheel, or whatever it is. So that then goes around and controls this relay down here. This relay allows 12 volts to come to this solenoid, which you can see pushes down on the button on the camera. And so that makes it all go around. The solenoid is getting very, very hot, so I might not let this go for too long. This is going okay. So yeah, that's my film digitizer.
You can almost always tell where a talk of mine is, and it's to do some amazing builds and stuff that we have more 3D.
So I was able to digitize about 6 seconds of film last night. I had a few issues because the tape that I was using to hold the camera up was slowly moving down, so the picture was slowly moving out of frame. And because I kept trying to correct that, then the frame moves around and stuff like that. Well, I am going to modify it a little bit more, fix it, and pretty soon I should be able to digitize a whole film. I just need to fix a few things. My main issue is that my camera, it doesn't, well, okay, there's a lot of issues. First issue, the projector flashes each frame 3 times. So a 24 frames per second projector actually projects at 72 frames per second. Since I'm getting timing information off of that 3-lobed or whatever shutter, then I'm taking 3 pictures per frame. I'm taking a picture every time the shutter comes open. And so that means I have 3 times as many pictures as I need, plus, second issue, I have it a bit delayed. Actually, I need it a bit delayed. The switch triggers before the shutter is fully out of, like, fully open. And so sometimes the camera will take a picture with the shutter like right here, so you only have this part where you're seeing. And at that point, issue number 3, my camera does not have manual exposure control, so it's automatically trying to adjust every time it goes dark and then bright and then dark and then bright. Well, dark and then bright. And so that'd be fine, but unfortunately that's not always the same. Sometimes it will take a picture immediately when it's all black. Then other times it'll take so long to adjust that it takes until the solenoid turns off and it's already black again, and then it can't take a picture because the solenoid undoes. So it goes between taking a picture in a millisecond to taking a picture in like 1 second. And that being delayed by the automatic exposure, because every single time it takes a frame, as you saw in that video, it was going bright and then dimming, and then bright and then dimming, bright, dimming, take a picture, bright, dimming, take a picture, and sometimes it wouldn't be able to keep up. And if I slowed it down, then it would have issues of just taking pictures of black, because if I speed it up, like, it's black, but it hits the button, it takes a couple milliseconds, but by that time the shutter's already opening, so it sees, oh, the brightness is adjusting, I need to adjust this, and so by that time it can adjust. But that's where all the issues come. I might see about getting a DSLR if that has manual exposure control. Also, that would have a trigger, so I don't have to have a stupid solenoid, which in that case I don't have to adjust the timing too much. But I'm still taking 3 pictures per frame, and that's a bit much. I also need to clean the gate because there's a bunch of junk in the camera, so there's hairs and whatnot. You know how projectors are, like on the outside of it, there's always like this junk that's kind of being a silhouette on the image. It's probably just like little bits of dust and whatnot, but whenever you're zooming in that much, it looks like it's these big things like blocking the view. But I'm still pretty happy with this. I might see about ordering a DSLR, maybe an old one, but that's about it. I think I should be able to get this going pretty soon. And because I didn't build an entire system, I just modified my projector to do this, and I didn't modify it irreversibly. I could put it back to being a projector in 15 minutes. Take all the stuff off, put the belt back over the motor, and boom, going. Speaking of film, though, I did see Citizen Kane recently, yesterday. And so I always hear that, oh, it's one of the best movies ever made. It kind of sucked. I mean, honestly, Citizen Kane kind of sucked. Basically, it's a movie of a reporter trying to learn about someone that was kind of an asshole and had a lot of issues. And that's it. At least that's the representation they give you. The acting's kind of terrible. Like, I would hate for someone to see this and say, like, oh, you just don't like old movies. I like old movies. But it's just this particular one I didn't find very interesting. And, like, for instance, there's this one scene where his girlfriend or wife or whatever, wife at that time, wants, or she doesn't want to sing, he makes her sing. But everyone's always saying, like, oh, she sings so terribly. But it's like, what? She seems like she sings okay. I don't understand, like, why wouldn't you have someone that actually sings terribly? Then again, I tend to think that the human voice is one of the most grating and horrible sounding musical instruments there is, so maybe I just don't know. But I thought she sang fine. And then for them to be all like, oh, she sings terribly, just doesn't make much sense. The entire film just is a big old waste of time. Yeah, I really don't get it. And then to think about, like, all these people writing reviews like, oh, it's a reflection on the life of the wealthy, and it's like, shut up. It's a bad film. It's a bad movie. It might have some interesting bits, but the main character is totally unrelatable, totally uninteresting. Well, a little bit interesting, but all he wants to do is cause trouble. And yeah, it's just kind of not that interesting. There's one scene where they have Hitler in the movie, and it's like, I was thinking, like, oh, it'd probably be more interesting if they just went with Hitler, because Hitler is an infinitely interesting villain. Depending on how you... usually a villain. I'm not sure of many other portrayals of him, but usually he's the villain, but he's a very interesting character. Meanwhile, you have Citizen Kane, Mr. Kane, whatever his name is, Charles Kane, who is, like, not interesting. I don't know. I don't really, maybe back then it would have meant a lot, but now it just seems vapid. Yeah, it just seems kind of vapid. Like, it's just a bunch of scenes that don't really make a whole lot of sense. Maybe it just doesn't translate very well, I don't know. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you very much for watching. See ya.